Hello, my name is Jake, and I write a newsletter about Chinese music called Concrete Avalanche. Today I'm here at the kind invitation of China Talk to play you some of my favourite music that came out of China in 2024. That first song is called Golden Seed, and that's by a band called Sleeping Dogs, the Beijing-based group who put out a new 4-track EP in November called Cliché, their first proper release since their debut album about 2 years ago now. But the track you just heard actually is from a compilation of music from all across Asia put together by the Guru Guru Brain label to celebrate their 10th anniversary. And it's also the track from that compilation that Giles Peterson chose to play on his Six Music show. And speaking of compilations, this track coming in now is from one of my favourite compilations of the year. It's an ambient album put out by Beijing's Seppel label. The label was run by Brad Seppel, and it kind of had a comeback in 2024 after about a 6-year hiatus, and they really made up for lost time, releasing like a whole bunch of excellent, interesting experimental electronic records. This ambient compilation is especially beautiful, as demonstrated by the opening track by Xiongga, a duo comprised of Brad himself and a Guangzhou-based producer called Yu Hain. This track is called Never Broken, Never Healed. There's a song from AYRTBH, also known as Wang Chantun. It's a software writer and experimental musician based in Shanghai. And he's been releasing interesting avant-garde computer music for around 2 decades now. But as you've just heard, his latest record, an album called Bust Fossil, is one of his most accessible works to date. The LP was released at the end of November, and that track was called Aroma Compound. Up next is another artist who've been around for a while. There was a time, probably around 2007, 2008 or so, when if someone overseas knew of a Chinese band, it was Car Sick Cars. 2007 was the year they were meant to support Sonic Youth in China, but they were stopped from doing so at the last minute. And 2008 was when they were featured in the likes of the New York Times and The Guardian. I'm not going to recite the group's entire history right here, but it's safe to say there's been a fair few ups and downs since then. But earlier this summer, the band made something of a comeback with the original lineup getting back together and recording a new album. The first song off that record, the album's called Aha, was this beautiful track called Farewell, which was a really wistful kind of reflection on the band's youth and came with a refrain of Are You Still There? It felt almost like a kind of end of a career track, almost like it was a farewell from the band. But unfortunately it was swiftly followed with a full new album. You should definitely go and listen to Farewell. It's in my end of year mix over on Concrete Avalanche. For now, I'm actually going to play a different track, and I'm going to go with one of the livelier tracks from the album. This track's called Stage Riot.
嘈杂的声音摩擦着白色的衣襟。
The Swan and Blossom sounds a bit like the name of an English country pub, but it's actually a band from Chengdu, or maybe it's both actually. Anyway, this is about the latter, obviously. They put out their first album in 5 years and only their second ever at the end of November. And I've seen a number of people, including the producer for the record, who's an established Chengdu indie rock musician in his own right called Uncle Hu, say that it's a record that kind of needs a bit of time to get into, and I definitely feel like I'm still digesting it a bit. But I wanted to include it here because it just feels really different to a lot of what's going on in the music scene right now. And it's an indication of how diverse music in China can be sometimes, something which doesn't always come across in English language coverage of it. This album was mixed by Mark Nevers, who's worked with the likes of Lamb Chop and Andrew Bird. And the record has a lot going on. There's some really interesting instrumentation and some vocal flourishes, such as the use of kind of Chinese opera style singing on one track. And it kind of moves between dark folk and quirky indie and a range of other genres. Anyway, it's a fascinating listen. I definitely recommend you check out the album. And I'm going to play a track from the album called Hereditary Nightmare. And I'll follow that with a track from an artist called Voisin Shi, who put out her second solo full-length album just a few weeks ago, actually, called Queen and Elf. And she's been a key figure on the Shanghai jazz scene for years. She used to work kind of behind the scenes at Jay-Z Club, which is something of an institution in Shanghai. And then she later took to the stage herself. She's also a really skilled electronic music producer, and her interest in different forms of music is really evident on this album. Although it's kind of rooted in jazz, she kind of also weaves in elements of instrumental hip-hop, ambient, spoken word, and lots more. So her LP is also another really fascinating listen. And I'm going to play a track called Kagi from that record. But first, Swan and Blossoms.
What year is this?
间是孤单，梦里回荡辽阔的不安，是人未知的枷锁。头晕目眩，满嘴诗篇，却糟糕地聆听着。时间又变暗，不是我要的红色，热情摇摆，讨人喜欢，可以幻想的红色。红色字是它的名字，啦啦啦啦啦啦。啦啦嘿哦，红色字是它的名字，啦啦啦啦啦啦哦，啦啦啦嘿哦。
由我嘅物件堆積似座山咁高，肚內面積日漸減少，懶得執屋發夢翳焗。密不透風嘅房間係我嘅無縫港灣， 用嚟防範無間。越善行為，愛嘅人言可畏。所謂火雞，舌頭似機關槍，搖佢中傷。我課門裝咗防彈夾品，預防被啄。滿咗善良被搶，劫匪們自我膨脹，將所有嘅誘惑都教活喺我嘅車上。佢惡貫滿盈，為我枯燥無味嘅生活好打不平，方會失靈手殺急停。Black black black， 似爆旋陀螺電擊奔星雷霆，影射我嘅生活，每日被逼吞精冷靜，嚴禁暴走。係因為撞樹後漏油，環境屬於自然，老樣遞咗支煙叫我點點，紀念我嘅生前。就咁又翻返嚟，抽下下籤，晒夠氣依然，恐懼黑車黑底褲黑靴嘅鋼絲趁二度入侵我人生所以，突然決定執翻支咪為咗呢個地球防衛，將白色惡魔貼上雷射標籤防偽，麻痹痛覺，超時空駕駛封印緊嘅逃生總掣出動，唔係演習一瞬即逝，就算監視香咗都只能硬砌自吹自擂。人類陷入虛假嘅安全意想，係一種自我保護機制，可以安心地發展文藝。就好似玉林浸入宣揚愛同和平，大風大同消滅貧窮。光之巨人嘅傳說係虛構，只係讀者盲從。
So you just heard The Swan and Blossoms, followed by Voisin Shi, and then followed by Mad Pearl and Get Busy Trio. In case you couldn't tell, that last group are from Guangdong, and they're signed to the Space Fruity label. And they put out their WOP back in August, and it was an album with really strong summery vibes. Just a really fun, laid-back, jazzy hip-hop record. The next two tracks I'm going to play for you are pretty different. The first is from a band called Fadza. They're a post-punk band out of Xi'an, and they've had a really interesting year. They went to South by Southwest in the spring, and were meant to go on a tour of North America after that, but only ended up playing a handful of the planned dates in the end. They nevertheless put out a documentary about their time in the US with clips and getting really up in the faces of the crowd in Texas and playing these kind of smaller venues, at the end of which the band said they wish they could do that more in China, where these days they tend to play mostly kind of bigger venues, especially since they were featured on TV show The Big Band. But they then went and booked a tour of smaller gig venues across China, which felt a little bit contrived, but it actually seems to have given them a renewed kind of energy. And in November, they put out an album where they basically took a bunch of their old songs and re-recorded them. This probably could have also felt a little bit contrived, but it wasn't just like a Taylor's version style thing. They really did reinvent a lot of tracks. And anyway, even if you've never heard of them before, the album is well worth a listen. It's called Oriental 101 with Future Prairie. And the track that I'm going to play off of that album is called Night Patrol. And then straight after that, you're going to hear a song from Howie Lee. And Howie Lee is one of the most interesting artists operating in China. So it's no surprise that his latest album was picked up and given a lot of attention by the likes of Jam Supernova and Tom Ravenscroft on BBC. The LP was recorded over 2 weeks at the Drolma Welsing Ling Monastery in the mountains of northeastern Tibet. And it saw him basically combine Tibetan Buddhist singing with what the official introduction on Bandcamp called mutating bass/footwork science, glitched out hyperrhythms, and sampled Chinese Tibetan instrumentation. I'm pretty sure it's unlike anything else you've heard all year, and it's definitely one of the most interesting albums of 2024, in my opinion. But first up, here's Fadza with Night Patrol.
结冰的河流，夕阳在自语。群山如若，
Jana Georgia, Jasana Jasana Jadehana Jadehana Sarvakarma Parambara Nime Sarvasadona Jasoha.
All right, I've got one more track for you. Thanks very much for listening. If you've liked anything that you've heard here, all of this music should be available on platforms like Bandcamp, which actually pays the artists a reasonable amount of money compared to other music platforms that I won't name. Please support the artists if you can. Thanks very much to China Talk for having me on. Really appreciate it. And if this has piqued your interest, have a look for Concrete Avalanche, which is the free newsletter that I write on Chinese music. When I did a mid-year roundup for China Talk halfway through the year, I ended up with a track from the brutal metal one-man band called Hoplites. And that album is still one of the best of the year, by the way. Everything that was on that kind of mid-year review, it definitely still stands up. I've just tried to go for some different tracks and different artists here a little bit. But anyway, yeah, to round off this episode, I'm going to go with something that is actually no less brutal, really. It's from a group called Ghost Mass, and there's something of a kind of noise supergroup comprised of two members of Classic Cars, who we heard earlier, Li Weisi and Li Qing, although sounding very, very different here, as well as Chinese sound art pioneer Yan Jun. And together they make these visceral but fascinating sounds. There's not really a good way to describe it, I don't think, but this is a track called Ghost Bomb, and you might want to adjust your volume accordingly.